There is something no one talks about, but everyone feels. Have you noticed that emptiness that comes next? That feeling of tiredness, guilt, apathy, as if something had been torn from you? Yeah, this is not just psychological. What most people don't know is that pornography goes far beyond what it seems. It is not just a harmless habit, a passing entertainment. She acts like a silent thief, stealing her sexual energy, fragmenting your soul, and weakening your spirit without you realizing it. But why no one talks about it? Simple. Because there's an entire system designed to keep you addicted. Normalizing the consumption of this content was not an accident. It was a strategy. Each click, each visual stimulus, every peak of dopamine has been designed to keep you stuck in a cycle that drains you and makes you weaker. And the weaker you are, the easier it is to manipulate you. Pornography does not destroy only your mind. It affects your inner strength, your spirituality, and even your ability to feel true love. And before you think this is just philosophy, understand, science has already proven the damage that this addiction causes in the brain. Its neurochemistry is reprogrammed, its perception of pleasure is distorted, and gradually its motivation for real life dissolves. The problem is that no one really calls it. In fact, the more lost you are, the better for those who profit from your weakness. What you feel after watching is not random. It's a side effect of something much bigger happening behind the scenes. But there is another way, a path of liberation, of recovery of your energy, reconnecting with your true essence. And he starts here now with the truth that almost no one has the courage to tell you. Prepare yourself, because what you will find out can change your life. It's curious how no one talks about it, but everyone feels. Pornography, although it seems like a simple visual entertainment, is like a key that opens deep spiritual doors, and are not always doors we should open. When someone connects to this type of content, there is a subtle exchange of energy. It is not just about momentary pleasure, but about soul fragmentation. The feeling of emotional tiredness, of emptiness after the act, is no coincidence. It is as if part of the inner force was drained, leaving a trail of apathy. The body feels, but it is the spirit that moans. People are disconnected, scattered, unaware that they are carrying lost fragments of themselves. Dopamine addicts, of course, but the biggest problem is invisible to the eyes. Pornography acts as a modern ritual of spiritual self-employment, where sexual energy, which should be a fuel of creation and expansion, is thrown away. Each click is a small cut in the soul, a removal of their own conscience. And the most dangerous is that the person doesn't even notice. True spirituality requires presence, but addiction places the individual in a trance. It is like living in automatic, reacting to impulses manipulated by a much older and sophisticated manipulation system than we imagine. It's not just a matter of pleasure, but self-control, and how to develop discipline when your vital energy is being diverted daily without you. Most do not even realize that this constant exhaustion does not only come from work or routine, but from small habits that run the essence. Pornography is one of them. A practical example: try to spend 7 days without consuming any adult content and realize the difference. More mental clarity, more energy, more willingness to face life. It sounds magical, but it is only the natural return of spiritual energy to its proper place. This hidden spiritual impact is sneaky, silent, but destructive. The good news is that where there is conscience, there is power of change. But before reversing this process, you need to understand how it started. And curiously, the beginning is where no one suspects, in the social conditioning that makes it seem normal. It is no coincidence that you find it all normal. From an early age, we were shaped by a handling system that taught us to see pornography as harmless, even healthy. But stop and think. Why would an industry that profits billions a year would be so accessible, free, and encouraged? It's not just about money. It's about mental control. The more addict someone is, the more manipulable he becomes. Spirituality moves away, the inner force goes out, and dopamine dictates the rules of the game. It is as if we are within a social theater, where everyone works, but no one questions the script. Pornography was packed as sexual freedom, but the truth is that she hides a masked addiction of pleasure. A modern ritual repeated in silence, day after day. And who benefits from it? Large corporations, platforms, and algorithms that gain from their soul fragmentation. It is such a deep conditioning that even those who perceive the problem feel ashamed to talk about it. Think with me. Have you noticed how movies, series, and even the songs push this content below? It is all so normalized that those who decide to move away seems to the weird. But being weird in this context is a sign of spiritual awakening. Social manipulation is subtle but devastating. It creates a cycle where pornography is not just accepted, it is expected, as if it were part of every man's routine. And when something becomes routine, it becomes identity. A good practical exercise here is to observe the triggers. Social networks, certain profiles, innocent videos that arouse something. All this is part of the same system. Mental reprogramming begins with the filter of what you consume. Want to change? Start by cleaning your feed. Block, silence, delete. It is the first step to recover control and reactivate your conscience. Because where there is vigilance, there is liberation. But there is something even deeper happening behind this normalization. It's not just the behavior that changes, it's energy. There is a spiritual connection that forms every time this content is consumed. And that's where things get even denser. Few people realize, but pornography creates a real spiritual connection with the content being consumed. It is not only the body that reacts, it is the soul that curls there. With each view, something gets glued to you. It is as if sexual energy, instead of being channeled to creation, is drained by an invisible wire, as in a transfusion to the opposite. This is not cheap mystical chat, it is energy perception. It is as if part of your light is delivered in exchange for quick and empty pleasure. This connection is so intense that even after closing the browser tab, it remains alive inside you. Have you ever felt that strange sensation of weight, low vibration, right after consumption? So, it is. It's not just tiredness, it's a consequence. The act becomes an unconscious modern ritual, and those on the other side of the screen do not even need to know their name to receive their energy. This is soul fragmentation in real time, a spiritual sacrifice disguised as entertainment. And when this ritual is repeated, day after day, the person begins to move away from his true purpose. Creative energy goes away, clarity disappears, and that persistent feeling of something is wrong, but I don't know what. This loss of direction is not random. It is part of what this system wants, a disconnected society addicted to dopamine, with low inner force and easy to control. Because those who do not dominate their energy ends up dominated by it. Want a practical example of how to cut this connection? After each impulse, stop, take a deep breath, and do something that recovers your energy. Meditation, prayer, writing, a cold shower, or even intense physical exercises. This is the beginning of self-control. Reversing this connection requires conscious action. It may seem small, but over time, these conscious rituals are cleaning the invisible strings that you didn't even know you carried. But the repetition of addiction not only creates calls, it turns off something much more precious within you. And when this disconnection happens, the feeling of empty settles like a shadow. When pornography becomes habit, control is no longer yours. It is as if a part of your brain is kidnapped by an autopilot that only seeks quick reward. The dopamine becomes the fuel of each click, but the actual cost is much deeper. Disconnect with the true self. The feeling of being living without focus, without direction, half a zombie. It's no wonder. It is the result of a silent erosion of consciousness. Over time, momentary pleasure becomes necessary, and that need becomes prison. This is how the handling system works. It does not hold on to you with chains, but with desires. You start looking for a relief, and ends up losing your sexual energy, your inner strength, and your presence. It is a subtle but effective trap. And do you know what is worse? Most don't even realize that it is inside her. It only feels tiredness, constant distraction, emptiness, and thinks it is normal. But it is not normal to forget who you are. It is not normal to live anesthetized. This loss of vital energy gradually erodes mental clarity, discipline, connection with spirituality. It's like trying to meditate with a screaming speaker. You even try but can't. Pornography sabotages the inner silence that is needed to awaken spiritual. And without this silence, how to find your way back to you? One exercise that can help a lot here is the so-called dopamine fasting. Spend 24 hours without consuming digital stimuli, social networks, videos, music, even news. It's just you, your body, and your thoughts. At first, it seems torture, but then it becomes a deep reconnection. You start to realize how numb it was. This fasting is a practical form of mental reprogramming, a necessary fresh start. And the frightening thing is that this loss of individual control feeds something bigger, an invisible business that thrives while the soul of people fragments. Have you ever wondered why pornography is so easy to access, so available, so free? So it is. Nothing that moves billions comes without a price. And in this case, the price is paid with your energy. There's an invisible business behind each click where corporations, algorithms, and even social structures feed on your addiction. And it's not just the financial profit that matters here. It's energy profit. The more distracted and emotionally weakened you are, the more profitable you become. This is not conspiracy theory. It is practical observation. Notice how technology giants know exactly how to keep you there, sliding, clicking, coming back. The system is designed to keep you with low awareness, with the brain pumping dopamine, but the emptied soul. And when spirituality comes out of the scene, manipulation enters the front door. All this is feedless. Addiction generates profit. Profit generates more stimulus. Stimulus generates more addiction. And the wheel spins. And in this process, people become commodities. Not as a physical product, but as a data source, attention, and, yes, vital energy. It is as if you're being sucked by an invisible straw while you think you are just relaxing. And do you know what most feeds the system? The silence, the shame, the taboo. No one talks about it. And what is not spoken is not questioned. This is part of the modern ritual of submission. A practical way to start getting out of this gear is to understand behind the scenes. Read books such as The Age of Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff or Nir Eyal's Hooked. They show how our attention was transformed into a currency of exchange. And with this knowledge comes the power to make more conscious choices, to shield. When you understand the game, stop being pawn. It starts to act as a player. But this game doesn't destroy your attention or peace, just. He goes deeper into the heart, because gradually, he erases the ability to feel true love. What few realize is that pornography does not steal only energy, it distorts the way you see love. It is a subtle but brutal process. The mind, reprogrammed by constant stimuli, begins to associate pleasure with speed, intensity, and superficiality. And then, when a true connection arises, it looks boring. Because the brain is already addicted to dopamine peaks, and real love is not a peak, it's a river. Constant, deep with curves and currents. This continuous consumption teaches the brain to seek pleasure without involvement, desire without presence, touch without soul. And gradually, the ability to love really begins to dissolve. Couples move away, connections lose meaning, sex becomes performance, and I can't find it. And the most dangerous? The person thinks the problem is in the other. But what was eroded was the inner base, spirituality, inner strength, the awareness of what it is to love with purpose. Have you seen amazing people with everything to live a deep relationship, sabotaging yourself for not being able to surrender? For feeling a strangeness in the face of real intimacy? This is because pornography feeds a relational pattern that does not exist in real life, creates unreal and worse expectations, makes the sacred sexual energy wasted on disconnected fantasies of the soul. The true connection requires delivery. And where there is addiction, there is no delivery. There is mental control. A good way back is to re-educate the look. Seek real stories. Read authors who talk about love with depth, like Bell Hooks in All About Love. Talk to people who live love with conscience. reiterating that loving is a modern connection ritual, not a decorated industry script. Spirituality does not live where there is haste. It blooms in the light touch, in the attentive look, in the entire presence. But there is something more powerful than love, the source from which it is born. And this source is sexual energy, a sacred power that is being wasted without many realizing. Since ancient times, all great spiritual traditions have understood a fundamental truth. Sexual energy is not only biological, it is sacred. It is the source of creation, vitality, inner force. When well channeled, this energy can be used to generate art, business, internal revolutions. But when wasted without purpose, it weakens the spirit and fragments the soul. Pornography is one of the main means of draining this strength without even realizing it. The problem is that no one teaches this. On the contrary, society encourages the waste of this energy as if it were something trivial. But try holding on this power within you, redirect you to something bigger. People who practice energy retention, such as Buddhist monks or high-performance athletes, report levels of consciousness and productivity that seem almost supernatural. This is no coincidence. It is spiritual science in action, and you don't even have to go far to test this in practice. If you've spent time without consuming pornography or getting involved in empty pleasures, you may have noticed the mind gets sharper, creativity fires, the presence intensifies. It is as if a new force arose from within. This is because this energy, instead of being thrown away, begins to feed its evolution. Many geniuses of history, from Nikola Tesla to Leonardo da Vinci, talked about the power of transmutation of sexual energy. Want a practical exercise? Whenever you feel this destructive impulse, stop and take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what could I create with this energy now? Write, train, learn something new. Each time you redirect this internal fire, you strengthen self, control, and approach spiritual awakening. This does not mean repression, but conscious pipeline. Because sexual energy was not made to be eliminated without purpose, it was made to raise consciousness. And when this energy is yours again, when you resume control, a new path opens. A path of liberation, reconstruction, resumption of its true power. The good news is that there is a way out. Pornography may have stolen your energy, manipulated your mind, and fragmented your soul, but none of this is irreversible. Liberation begins with a simple step: consciousness. Just the fact that you are here, reading this, already means that something inside you woke up. And when there is awakening, there is choice. The handling system only works while you are on autopilot. But the moment you decide to recover control, the game changes. And recovering this control is not just stop consuming pornography. It is a much larger process. It is about self, control, discipline, spiritual reconstruction. It means closing doors open to addiction, strengthening the mind, reprogramming the brain. Some practices can accelerate this process. Intense physical exercises, meditation, dopamine fasting, therapeutic writing. Small modern rituals that help purify what has been contaminated. Of course, it's not an easy way. The system that arrested you in this does not want to see you free. There will be relapses, resistance, times when your mind will try to deceive you. But each time you resist, something inside you gets stronger. It is a spiritual training, a spiritual sacrifice necessary to reverse years of conditioning. And with each victory, the sense of personal power grows. You start to feel that you are in charge of your own energy again. And the most amazing, over time, you realize that this fight was never just about pornography. It was about recovering your true connection with life, with people, with yourself. Empty pleasure gives way to true satisfaction. Apathy is replaced by purpose. What once seemed like a dead-end prison becomes the greatest opportunity for spiritual growth. Because true liberation is not just to stop a habit, it is reborn. Now that you understand the problem and know the way to get out of it, the question is, are you ready to act? Or will it continue to allow an invisible system to control your mind, body, and soul? Or are you going to take the reins of your life and recover your power? Because in the end, the choice has always been yours. But now, unlike before, you are aware of the game being played. And when there is conscience, there is no excuse anymore. The emptiness you feel later is not coincidence. It is a sign, a warning of your own spirit saying something is wrong. But the good news is that this emptiness can be filled in another way, with inner strength, with discipline, with true connection. Pornography has taught you how to seek pleasure quickly, but true satisfaction comes from self-control. The easy pleasure weakens. The purpose strengthens. What will you choose to feed? If you really want to get out of this cycle, it is not enough just to understand the problem. You need to act. Test the exercises we mentioned. Make a personal challenge. Seek knowledge of the subject. You can turn your sexual energy into something much larger than just a destructive habit. But for that, you need to make a decision now. So, are you ready to take the first step? If this content made sense to you, subscribe to the channel and enable notifications. Here, we talk about what no one has the courage to talk about. And more than that, we show the way to those ready to wake up.